So, if you've seen some episodes of Really Late Night, you'll recognize Lici Ayala. She played a producer on the show and was an actual producer on the show, and she also hosts her own show called A Blunt Discussion. Me and her talked on Zoom, and we started off talking about Joe Biden and how his sexual assault allegation doesn't seem to be dragging him down. So, let's jump into it.
Again, you won't know because there won't be a trial. There won't be anything. I don't think, looking at what's going on, it's like I think we need to listen and respect everyone's story. But when they don't really seem to want their story told, but yet they still want to be forefront, it's really hard
Right.
to not doubt and to not wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and it's like, listen, if this was any other situation, let's tear it out, whatever, but this is our future of our country right now, the future of
Right.
us. And
Yeah. I feel like what has been frustrating to me is this feeling of like not good enough, right? So like, these two candidates, these are not good enough. And I just like think that not good enough repeats in all kinds of ways. And it repeats in like in this instance that our politics are not good enough, it's like it repeats in like kind of like religions, like even like Buddhism has this idea of pure land, right? There's like always been this like purity craving for people, and like and even like with like me and you, right, of like not feeling Latino enough,
right.
and then for me lately of like not feeling like I'm politically active enough,
Right.
and just this like this idea that we could get somewhere that is the perfect place is just like it's something that we've tried all these different ways, and it's just like unfortunately we do have to choose a lesser of two evils, and we get to choose who ruins our country. That's kind of how it is right now.
We kind of get to pick our poison.
Right.
Because, and that's one, like, I think what a lot of people don't get, because I want to get into some interesting territory here, is I like Hillary Clinton. And that's, I think that when I say I like Hillary Clinton, I can also say I like Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
However, is very problematic, and there's a lot of things I don't like about Bill Clinton. He teeters on that line of, but yet everybody, it's like okay to love Bill Clinton, but if you like Hillary, something's wrong with you, and it's
Right.
like anti-American. And I'm like, how is that okay? Hillary Clinton gets more shit for Bill Clinton's affairs than Bill Clinton does.
Right.
And it's like, what's that about? Because it's not clearly not the politics. It's clearly not about integrity or sanctity of marriage. So is that obviously what it's about? Yes, probably, but you need to admit that to yourself. But I'm not saying that's the reason why she lost, is just because she was a female president. I think that definitely hurt her tremendously. I think the biggest thing that people don't realize is that to be a like look at Sarah Palin, right? What I watched the first interview with her where she said the whole, well, you can see Alaska, or for Russia from the coast of Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see it from my house. It was like I watched it and I was like, that's like a beauty school pageant answer. And I realized I was like, well, I'm kind of saying that because she kind of seems like a beauty school pageant queen kind of a thing. Like here's
right.
and I'm here for the show. And I gave chance after chance and it never proved otherwise. And I didn't agree with her politics. And that was hard because I liked McCain at the time. But then he kind of, unfortunately did not become the John McCain I would have wanted as a president until he had to give his concession speech. And then I was like, there he is. Where were you, guy? You went away. You were there for a bit.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'm gonna choose Sarah Palin, and my brain went away. And then I shouldn't speak. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here. And I'm like, shut up. Because again.
Well, that's the thing is people can sense when like someone is speaking from their heart, right? So when John McCain like was kind of bringing her out, it's kind of like we weren't buying it, you know?
Like, what do you do with it?
And like, that's kind of how I feel with Biden when he was like, I vow to have a woman vice president, and everyone cheered. And it's like, no, we need policies that help women. We just don't need it to be a woman. You know,
Right.
it's like that tokenizing. And the older, and you know, I have like older friends that I respect and totally adore, and they actually really appreciated that. Like women in their 50s really appreciated this message by Biden. And there's definitely some disconnect between the older generation and us of like being like, that's not real. And like, I feel like people who, when I see them speak, like really get that realness is like AOC. Whenever I see her talk, the genuine passion and care is like coming through. And I'm like, I'm going to vote for whoever gets her closer to the White House. And that's like how I'm deciding. And I definitely know that not voting gets her further away. And, you know,
Right.
Trump getting reelected gets her even further away. And when I see her speak, I'm like, she is a part of like a big historical movement, you know? And as of recently, I've actually just been viewing myself as like a part of history more. Not me personally, but all of us, right? Because we tend to think of ourselves as like the modern current people, right? But
Yeah.
200 years ago, those people were like the modern current people. And we are just like another like addition to this thing called history. Like we are in it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and like to me, that's why I like what you said about like what's best for our future, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. And like that's the thing. It's like I like that was one of the things that was so harmful, I feel, about like Hillary's campaign is it was kind of like catering to that older mentality of like, honestly, I feel like women were just happy to be fucking included. It's like they're like, hey, they mentioned women this time, guys. Even then, I just said guys, talking,
Right.
talking hypothetically to a bunch of women.
Right.
But you know, like, that just like shows how just naturally exclusive we are.
Right. Yeah.
And and that's like me as a woman talking about
Right.
that. You know what I mean?
And just
So-
for the record, I have stopped using guys, so I don't want anyone coming after me.
Oh, so thanks for the shame that you just
Yeah.
threw me.
Just think like if you like had better language, you would just be like a better person. Well, thanks so much for joining me.
And that's the thing is like that is like it's funny because I'm like immediately like, oh whatever, but I'm like, no, thank you for reminding me that that's
Right.
like that. But that's the thing is like I like even semi calling myself out, you saying something about it, I was still like immediately like, oh thanks, and I'm like, stop it, like you're just exactly what you're trying to be against.
Well, see, like, and that's the other thing. Like, it's so weird to me. You didn't invent the word guys, you know, but you could like be attacked like as if you did. And like we are like both in that sense. Like we inherit these things, right? Because I remember being like in middle school and saying homophobic things because that's how I was taught that you kind of get one over on someone. And then lo and behold, turns out I'm also attracted to men. And those slurs now really hurt, right? Like it's not like I invented homophobia. I inherited it and repeated it, you know? And like I feel like just culturally kind of have to like figure out how we're going to square this thing where, you know, like when who really is responsible, you know?
Right. It's I mean it is it's both like your own you have to have your own like personal responsibility, and then you also have to be responsible of like what other people in society are going through in their own experience, because that's the hard thing is like walking that line of like, you know, like I don't know how to tell somebody else who may also be you know, another person of color who is just maybe going through a different experience than mine or something like that. I don't know how to tell them like if because there's been situations where I've talked to people who are people of color who are not black, but they are like more dark skinned than I am or something like that. And they're like, oh, well, that guy only had that happen because, you know, he was probably just doing something stupid or something. Like, obviously not in this most recent case, but like
Right.
in past case, like, oh, you couldn't see what happened before. And I'm like, I don't care if, unless he was like actively shooting at people, I really don't see how he deserves to be dead now. But anyway,
Right.
and it's like kind of like it's just kind of blown off. It's like, because like, listen, I'm like darker than you. It's not, those weren't the exact words said, but it was just kind of implied. Like, listen, I think I know more. And it's like, but first of all, you're not black. Second, you could have a completely different life experience than mine. I don't believe you. I think if you have not had a situation like that, you have not been paying attention, or you've just been extremely blessed and lucky, because I don't know many people who, even like myself, who hasn't gone through some at least microaggression, if not daily, you know, weekly.
Right.
I mean, except for now,
Yeah.
because we're all stuck in our houses, and even then, you know, I'm in an interracial relationship, and sometimes inappropriate things are said, and then you have to have a conversation about certain things. It's been a while, but it has happened. You know,
Right.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like having to remember, like, and even then, I'll say shit that's wrong, and I'm like, all right, you know, like I used to say shit like, oh, you know, black people aren't the only people who have it bad, and you know, technically that's
Right.
true, but like,
Yeah. Well, I've been seeing those kind of posts go around too.
oh yeah,
And like, you know, especially like for me and you, because we are kind of ambiguous, you know, we are Latinos, but people do ask us like, where are you from? Because they're trying to suss out, like, I get Middle Eastern, you know.
yeah. There's like,
What do you get?
I get everything. I've gotten everything from being black to Egyptian, Italian, or Greek. I do also get a lot of Middle Eastern different
Mhm.
cultures. And it's just a grab bag. And you know, it's interesting because I had a conversation with some other people, and it is so frustrating when someone who is white comes up to you and is all like, "What are you?" And like they're a stranger, you know, like they're not. It's not like it's someone who I work with who's after like getting to know me for a bit. It's like, "Oh, hey, you know, I noticed your last name's this. Where are you from? You know, like where's your
Mhm.
family from, or like what's your origin, or something like that." Like
Right.
after getting to know me, you want to know more about me. That's one thing to ask me about what I am or where I'm from.
Right.
I mean, but to be just some stranger on the street because you want to be able to categorize me and put me into that other category because you need to be more comfortable with it is just so not appropriate.
Yeah. Well, you know what I used to do is I would like someone would be like, "Where are you from?" And I thought that they were asking like, "Where did I grow up?" And I'd be like, "Littleton." And then they'd be like, "Where are you from?" Like as if Littleton is such a cultural hub that someone would be like demystified, like, "Oh, I noticed in your accent you were born by the Oxford station." So I didn't want to be rude by bringing up my phone, but when I get my mustache, I think I've shown you this. Have I shown you this?
I mean, you might have.
When I have my mustache, we'll throw it up on the screen for the permanent one. There is no denying my like Mexican heritage.
Oh
You see
man,
it? Let me
you,
turn it down a little, just so that
you,
way it doesn't.
I
This
swear,
is like a Mexican dad mustache if I've ever seen one. You
look
know?
like, you look like pictures of my uncles from like 20 years ago.
Oh my god, totally. I like was immediately